So now we turn to chapter 52, which I could be wrong again, but I believe that this is the most quoted chapter in the Book of Mormon, especially. Nephi quotes from 52, Abinadi, Jesus, and Moroni. They all quote from Isaiah 52. It seems to be a go-to favorite of Book of Mormon authors, including the Savior himself. Notice how it starts. Awake, awake. Put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments. This clothing, taking clothing upon you, coverings. There's beautiful atonement symbolism here, isn't there?
Yeah. You know, Joseph Smith was asked in D&C 113, as recorded by Elias Higbee, what it means to put on your strength. And he said, to rise up and exercise your priesthood to bless and serve others. He wasn't asked, what does it mean to put on your beautiful garments? Let me suggest another way to look at this. It's also helpful. Back in chapter 49, it talks about how the people felt like God had forsaken them, and he lets them know he hasn't forsaken them with that beautiful imagery, can a woman forget a nursing child, and I can't forget you because I've graven you in the palms of my hands, and your walls are continually before me. And then he tells the covenant people to lift up their eyes and look, because they're going to see a huge group of people come, and that they would clothe themselves with them as a bride doeth, and bind them on them as an ornament. In other words, this huge group of people are going to come, and it'll be like a bride putting on her wedding attire, okay? If you accept these people, you're going to be putting on your wedding attire. And then as the verses proceed there in 49, it makes it clear that these are latter-day Gentiles who will come to witness that God hasn't forsaken them, and that they'll be shocked and say, whoa, where did you come from? You know, who hath begotten me these, seeing I was left alone, a captive tossed to and fro? These, where have they been? Well, they're the nursing Gentiles and nursing fathers, nursing kings and queens who bring them back and nurse them back into the covenant. And so back in 49:18, where it says you'll put them on like putting on a garment, a wedding dress, which you do just before the bridegroom comes. I wonder if that's another way to look at this. Wake up and accept the message of these latter-day Gentiles who are bringing it to you, and recognize them as part of the covenant family. If you understand it that way, then the next end of that verse makes sense. For thenceforth there shall more come unto you the
uncircumcised and the unclean.
Yeah, and those adjectives are usually used to describe
just the Gentiles.
But they're not Gentiles anymore. They're part of the covenant family. So one helpful way to look at that then is he's saying, wake up, start exercising this priesthood authority, and accept the gospel that's being brought to you by these folks. And it's like you're putting on your temple clothing, getting ready for the coming of the bridegroom.
It's beautiful, especially, and you take it down to verse 2. Shake thyself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. And in Isaiah's day, these people, their whole story has been one of captivity and destruction and conquests from various kings, and whether it's huge world empires or skirmishes with the Philistines and the Edomites and the Moabites and the Ammonites throughout how many generations of their history. And here's the Lord saying, you know what? We're done with all of that. You don't have to stay hostage to these past struggles that you've wrestled with for so many generations, because now I am here with you. You can trust in me. You don't need to stay down on the ground where people are treading you underfoot and keeping you in captivity, which, by the way, is a beautiful lesson for them in history back then. But I think it's an even more beautiful lesson for us today when you consider the various forms of captivity that people wrestle with individually or collectively in our world today, and the Lord promising to be able to deliver us from those things as well.
I love the way he states that promise in the 3rd verse. You sold yourselves for naught. In other words, you've put yourself into captivity for nothing, but you'll be redeemed without money. He kind of hints at that in chapter 55 as well, in verse 2. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labor for that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your soul delight in fatness. Well, I guess it starts in verse 1 where he says, come to the waters, he that hath no money. This is chapter 55, verse 1. Come buy and eat, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. There's this idea that you could sell yourself and put yourself in captivity, but if you're willing, there's a way for you to be redeemed and saved, and it's not going to cost you anything. So how do you make sense out of that?
I love the fact that for the Lord, he's not judging us based on how much money we have in our wallet or in our investment accounts. The rich, all the way down to the poorest of the poor, have equal claim on the blessings of the infinite atonement of Jesus Christ.
I love that. Some people say this is salvation by grace. It's a salvation that we don't deserve. I like the bank account analogy. Let me suggest another way to look at that. Each of us recognize how deeply indebted we are to the Savior for what he's done for us. We'd love to pay him back, right? And normally when you pay someone back, your bank account goes down and their bank account goes up. If you owe them $100, you give your $100, when you pay them, you're $100 poorer and they're $100 richer. But we don't have that currency to pay Jesus back. We'd love to, but he has told us how to pay him back. If you love me,
keep my commandments.
A new commandment I give unto you, that ye
love one another as I have loved you.
And inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, my brethren,
you've done it unto me.
So the currency with which we pay Christ back is our obedience, our love, and our service. Now think about that. So we owe Christ, we pay him back through our obedience, our love, and our service. After we have made that payment to him, are we poorer?
I think King Benjamin would say we're richer.
Yeah. So it's almost like he's saying, you owe me $100. When you put $200 in your bank account, I'll forgive the debt. And so in the end, it's cost us nothing. And so you are redeemed without cost to you. It's an act of pure grace.
That is a beautiful insight. That adds a whole new level of understanding to this idea of in giving ye receive. And in the economics of the Lord, that's exactly how it works. You never, ever put an offering on the altar of the Lord and walk away poorer than you walked up. You always walk away richer. And that's why opportunities like paying tithes and fast offerings to me has always been such an amazing commandment. Not because, I don't know if I can afford this, but it's more of I can't afford not to make this offering to the Lord, to show him I love him more than I love this money. And somehow, some way, the windows of heaven open up. And it doesn't mean that we all of a sudden become rich financially in every case, but wow, the ways that he blesses our lives that have influences on our finances, it's incalculable.
So it's like a thanksgiving. We're giving thanks. And here's the amazing thing. The ancient meaning of the word thanks really means to give. So when we say thanksgiving, we're really saying giving. So that's what God asks of us. He has modeled giving. He gave everything, and he asks of us to show our thanks by giving to others and to him. And in so doing, everyone is multiplied.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to say it. And so the giving doesn't diminish us. It enriches us.